This video was made possible with the help of Game Toppers. Upgrade your gaming experience with a Game Topper.
Hello chaps and chappettes, and welcome to a Board Games Everybody Should ... video where I'm going to be talking about a roll and write game. Now, off the bat, I am not a fan of roll and write games. I've played a few when they first came out and they all kind of felt like bingo. The only difference is with the roll and writes is you don't get to go home with a tablet or a TV or a latest console if you win. Not even a bottle of Chablis or something like that. But anyway, yeah, you just get a pat on the back from your friends. Well done, you won. You've crossed off better lines and you picked better dice than me. I even have tried the Twilight Inscription, which is Twilight Imperium, the roll and write game, which is like an hour and a half of the same meaningless thing that you do not feel the theme. It's just ticking off the right box in the right place to get the leg up on your friends. And so I have very little enthusiasm for roll and writes. And one was handed to me and I played it, and for some reason, for all the wrong reasons, I like it. That game is Railroad Inc. Now, you're saying, yeah, someone handed me this game. You know what? Yeah, this one was free, but these ones weren't. So what's the point of watching this video if you already know I like this game? Well, the reason I'm doing this video is it's a before you buy video. So I'm going to point out to you roughly how to play the game and give you an impression of how I felt about playing the game, but also point out pros and cons along the way. Things that work about the game, things that don't work about the game, benefits and non-benefits. And then I'll leave it up to you to decide whether this is a board game that everybody should have on their collection or not. So what is a roll and write? Well, basically a roll and write is someone will roll some dice, and whatever the results are, you will mark it off on a piece of paper normally, squashing it out a box, but not in Railroad Inc. You're actually going to be drawing, and this is one of the things that I think is better for me, because you're drawing and you're building your construction routes with the results of 4 dice. And again, don't worry if you cannot draw, because this game will compensate for that. You don't have to be an expert to draw either the roads or the rails or the stations. You can simplify it very simply by just drawing 2 lines for a road, and then a box for a station, and then 1 row and 1 line for a train track. Very, very simple, and we understand what it means. Now with the drawing, it can get a bit convoluted when you add the expansions in, because it asks you to draw other things like volcanoes and meteorites and trees and other things. But at its core, it's basic, simple. That's all you're going to be drawing. 2 lines, a black box, and a straight line, or bent kind of cross line. On these player boards, you'll see that they have all the results of whatever your dice have. So here in this row, and up here you have some bonuses. You can use 3 of these during the course of the game, and you cross it off once you've used it, so you can't use it again. So you say, I'm going to use this crossroads of 4 and I can't use it again. And you can use 3 of those at any time during the 7 rounds. Now I'm just going to talk about the basic game, and again you can see that I'm using the red board because the challenge mode ones are a bit more convoluted with extra expansions and extra rules and extra things. So I thought keep it simple and keep it safe, like Frodo, and explain the game. So yeah, as I said, you're going to roll the dice, and whatever the results are, you have to draw those 4 results. This is the basic game. There are expansions, 2 expansions in each of the 4 base games, which give you 2 extra things that you can do. These will change the number of rounds in the game, and they will also change the rules a bit and scoring. So here I have a bypass. I have 2 bends on roads and 1 straight train track. And whenever you build, you always build from the outskirts in. So in my case, I could say I'm going to build that there, and then build this here, and then maybe send that round here, and then carry on with this road here. So you're always going to carry on from wherever you're building, and you're always going to start from the edges as well. So again, this is just the simplified version, and you'll mark in the boxes up the top here which round you did that in. So obviously that would have been round 1, and this would be round 2. And this is a good way to catch out those cheaters who are cheated when you see that they've used a dice that they haven't. And you just keep going. You just keep playing for 7 rounds. And what you're trying to do is to score the maximum points in very many ways. Like here, the amount of connections that you make from the outskirts of the board. So, for example, let's say that I created a train track which went from here to here, and it also T-junction there, made a station, and then turned into a road there. Okay, that is 3 connections, which would give me 8 points. If I did another connection, it would give me 8 points on top. So if this then went down to here and connected to there, it's only 2, so that's 4. So the 4 plus the 8 equals 12. Obviously, if you can connect more together, the better. You can always rub out on the round that you're on, which is the bonus. You get this nice little adhesive thing on there, and that's it. But you can't rub out on a previous round. So once you've drawn it, it's in stone, and it's as simple as that. So that's the main scoring. So you mark the score there in that box, and then you'll count up your longest road. So your longest road would be the number of spaces that a road goes through. And a road or a rail can actually go off the board there, which is can be a benefit to stop you being penalized at the end of the game. So you'll count the amount of squares which have a continuous road on. If there's like a let's say here there was a bit too far there, a T-junction there, and it goes round here. So you could say that this road is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spaces long, and then you mark 10 in there. And then you do the same for the train tracks. And then here you get to score points for each of the boxes that you filled in the center. So this gives you a chance to actually just move into the center instead of just going all the way around the outskirts and filling up all of these around the edge. Finally, you'll get minus points for any roads which are not finished. So this would be -1 point, whereas I said this going off is not -1 point at all. It's actually, well, it's finished. Then you'll get points for any of the special extra expansions that you've added in. So whether you're playing with the volcanoes or the fireballs and the lava, and then you tot it all up, and the player with the most score wins. Simple as that. So there you go, that's a basic gist about the game. As you can see, it's relatively simple. You can have some problems explaining the end of game scoring about connecting the outside routes together into one thing, because some people won't guess that when you pass through a station, it transforms a road into a rail, or rail into road, and so they'll think obligatoire that they have to connect a road to a road exit. That's just a minor little niggle that you might kind of get when you're explaining the game. But at the end of the day, it's not going to take you too long to get over this and play another game so that the players will go, oh yeah, I didn't understand that first time, let's play again. Because it takes about 10 or 20 minutes. This game is relatively quick, depending if your players are switched on and not lagging behind, because there will be this kind of like, have you finished? Have you finished? Can we re-roll the dice now? Yeah, and that's probably the only interaction that you're going to get from the game. There is no interaction, and that's another no-no for me. I like to play games to be with people and interact and have this banter and like, aha, I've taken that from you. Oh, you've taken that from me, and aha, you sank my battleship. Boom! But yeah, there is no interaction. But I still like this game, basically because you are actually building something instead of just scribbling stuff off with these dice results. And that's the part that I like. It's the case of, you know, we've all been dealt this rubble, and we've got to make the best out of it as we possibly can. These are the resources that we have, and boom, you have to build something. And that's the nice thing as well, is seeing how people build differently with the same resources. It's kind of like the old Pandemic event that they used to have at shows, where it was like everyone would play Pandemic, they'd have the same characters, they'd have the same locations that they start on, and they'd also have the same viruses cropping up in every city. The only difference is the actions that they did on their turns. And so you had the same game, but it was played out different times, like multiverse. As I said, you don't need to be a drawer to play this game. You can just draw lines very, very simply. It can get a bit messy when you start adding the expansions in, and you have to start drawing like the icons which are on the dice, and then it can get a bit confusing. Again, it's that kind of like thick marker on the board, and it's like, it can be even worse when you're playing with, well, I was playing with my 6-year-old because I needed someone to play with, and he was drawing like big spiders everywhere. I couldn't tell after a while what was a rail and what was a road. The material is all good quality. I love these boxes, these little clip boxes. Everything fits in there nicely. You got the player boards. They're easy to clean and wipe off. You just get a bit of tissue and boom, Bob's your uncle or Sally's your aunt, and you go, da! And that's perfect. The pens have lasted a while. I've had that red version for like 3 or 4 years, and the pens all still work. The dice are lovely quality. And the rules are well written. The rule book explains everything pretty well. Let's talk about the different versions though. So at first there was the red and the blue version, and they basically come with 2 expansions each, and they came with 6 player boards. So you play 6 players or 12 players. Woohoo! Then they bring out the green and the yellow version, which only have 4 player boards, but they have a shed load more content. Again, they have 2 expansions each, so 4 extra dice, but they also have these challenge cards, and they also have these different boards. Oh, and another thing that I thought about it, the other little negative with the components is that the boards could have been a bit bigger. I have printed off a bigger one on piece of paper, but it's not as fun on paper with pencil and a rubber. Having this wonderful kind of, whatever it's called, plastic to write on and rub off works perfectly, but it just needs a bigger board. Now the challenges is a nice step up from your basic game. Now I played the basic game first obviously, and playing with the challenges is actually a bit more fun. I found it a bit more liberating to have the power to do things that I couldn't do before. Like if I traversed through a space with a warehouse on it, I could actually duplicate one of the 4 dice results that I've played. If I build a station, one of those black squares, in one of the spaces with a house on it, I will actually mark off a little space which will give me extra points at the end of the game. That's very roll and write, that is. And then there's the green octopusy thingy jobbies. When you go through 3 of those spaces, and you'll mark them off as you go, you'll actually be able to have a 4th special railroad track with a station in the middle. Bonus. And the game also comes with a mix of challenge cards. Now these challenge cards, you randomly pick out 3, place them in the middle of the table, and it's going to be kind of a race, or kind of an egg on the other players to be the first to complete a challenge. As soon as a player has completed a challenge, they'll mark it off and they'll score the maximum points for that challenge. That challenge might be a case of connecting 3 outside arrows in one route continuously, or filling in X amount of spaces in the middle of the square, or filling in 3 spaces on the outside of the square. And again, depending if you're playing with any of the expansions, they will give you challenges as well, like putting out X amount of trees or whatever. Now all of this adds to the replayability and does make it a bit more convoluted and a bit more complex. I'm always finding that it's fun to play with a expansion, and it just adds that extra kind of je ne sais quoi, but it just changes the game a little bit, and that's nice. So you can just play like the base game on its own and then add an expansion, or if you're feeling brave, add in 2 expansions. But one expansion is fine, but the challenge mode is fun in itself. Just playing with the base, just the board itself, and not playing with the challenge cards is my preferred playing style for this game. Now they bring out a shed load more expansions. There is loads in this box, and they do weird and wacky things. There are lots of little different expansions there. They have different themes. So for example, electricity, where you're putting up power cables and trying to create routes with power cables. There's also the arcade one where you get to play as Pac-Man, and you'll draw a Pac-Man on one of the exits, and then you'll draw the ghosts on some other exits, and there's some cherries, and you're basically going to try and connect back Pac-Man's route to the ghosts and eat the ghosts. And the more ghosts you eat, the more points you get. And if you get the cherry on top, bonus. They're silly, but they're fun. I don't know if any of them add any extra kind of like interaction with any of the other players, but at the moment, all the ones that I've played it's just solitaire. You're on your own. Each expansion also has nicely marked a level of difficulty, an easy, medium, or hard, which is nice, and they do actually feel easy, medium, and hard. So there you go. I think I've babbled enough there. So an overview, it's a roll and write, but you're drawing and you're actually building, which is a bonus in my opinion. The components are pretty good, but the game can get messy and you can have problems with the explanation of the scoring. But that's about it. It's quick, it's light, comes in a nice sized box, great components. Great idea, and endless replayability. As far as I'm aware, the more that you have, the more you can do. And it's a great solitaire game as well. They have solitaire rules, which is pretty much, well, it's the game anyway. The only thing that it could do with is probably a version where there are actually components. Instead of you having to draw, you plonk some Lego pieces into a board, kind of like this wonderful game. But we may never see that, but I can wish. So all that remains for me to do is say thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you found it informative and it's pointed in the direction of whether this game is for you or not. Maybe if this is interesting for your friend, share this video with him. Otherwise, just like this video anyway, it doesn't matter. So go and check out other reviews as well. Don't just take my opinion of the game. Go and check out other people. There's loads of us out there that do this kind of stuff, so keep your eye open. And then I'll say ciao for now, and please remember to please play nicely with each other, because it is only a game. Just sitting at the table next to Felicia with